And at this point in time, I'm going to turn you over to Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson, good night and welcome.
A pleasant, good day to you, Kamal. And hope you are having a wonderful season. Where I am right now, I can hear the sounds of the celebrations, the 9 nights at the Botanical Garden. It's a wonderful event. I haven't actually gone there myself, but it's going to be, I'm sure, a very wonderful event there. Christmas time is a time where we do many things. There's the standard, what I would consider the sole purpose of Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. And it's a religious time because it is so important. But additionally, it's a time of purchasing and presents and that material aspect that comes with Christmas as a form of celebration where we give presents and where we enhance our circumstances, our living conditions and things like that. And all that is quite important. And additionally, it is a time where we eat. We rarely prepare a lot of food. There's the Christmas songs that talk about drinking your ginger beer. It's a time when we rarely consume also a lot of other products. Um, the ham and the black cake and a host of these things that commemorate Vincentian culture. It's probably also a time when we also get a lot of barrels and we get a lot of products. And this program I'm looking at focusing on today is less about the Christian celebratory aspect of Christmas. It's less about the material aspects of the giving of presents and so forth. And it's so much more focused, as this is a medical show, on food. And essentially, there's a concept of what is good and what may be bad. And we've now realized so much that there is a concept, what we call ultra processed food, UPF, ultra processed food. Now, if there's ultra processed food, there must also then be processed food and unprocessed food. In other words, foods that are more natural, foods that you pick a fruit, you basically have the natural ingredients of the world. These are unprocessed food. But there's also processed food where you've altered it in some way, whether you've cooked it, whether you have added some a lot of salt to preserve it, you've added maybe some preservative, you've done various things to it. We consider those things to be ultra processed, to be processed in a food. But when it comes to ultra processed food, this is a totally different kettle of fish, you know? Um, and I want persons to fully understand what um, uh, what ultra processed food is. Now, I want you to imagine that there is a product like corned beef. And you may think that that particular corned beef is just beef. But as the word said, corned beef, do you know that corned beef in itself may have in a host of other different ingredients? And then when they mix it up, it may not necessarily have the right color. So they would add some additional coloring to it. And then they have to add certain things to enhance its taste and preserve it. And then the amount of beef in it, they may have to add other starchy ingredients, other products. And I'm not going to get into the details actually what's in corned beef, because depending on where it's made, it can have in so many different things. And if I were to say this corned beef has in this and that corned beef has in that, I'll be wrong, because the corned beef that you might basically be engaged with, or the luncheon meat, or the sausages, the canned sausages that you might be engaged in, might have all sorts of different ingredients. But I want you to understand that they actually pack these things together, give it the right coloring, do a number of things to enhance its taste. They add sugar, they add salt, they add all kind of other what they consider as semi-natural tasting products, so as to enhance the taste. And then they do testing. They would have literally hundreds of people, and this is not how it's done, but consider people putting on their blindfold and being asked to taste something and see what it's like. And based on the responses, they would then go and enhance the taste and come back to the same people and say, can you taste this and tell us what it's like? And do you like it? Does it taste good? Does it taste better than what you tasted before? And so they're able to make sure that the product tastes good, and at the same time that it looks attractive, so that you are able to eat as much of this particular product as possible. And this is where we find ourselves eating a lot of different products that are actually very, very high in toxic substances, I would say. They're high in sugars, they're high in various chemicals, and they're high in a range of artificial colorings, and so that not only some of these products have been known to not be safe. I would not go as far as saying they're known to cause cancer. They're suspected to be some of the engineers for cancer, but it hasn't been directly proven that they're cancer. But at the same time, they're not proven to be safe. And they occupy a category of generally accepted to be safe, something called GRAS, generally respected and accepted to be safe. Now, how do you know what is in products? Well, most countries of the world, in order to trade, they have to have inside or on the label of the package that is being sold, a listing, a labeling to show the ingredients. And typically, it's supposed to show exactly how much sugar is in it. It's supposed to show how much salt is in it. It's supposed to show what are the additives that have been put into it. And it's supposed to also show any active ingredients and other chemicals that may be there. And sometimes there is, unfortunately, a lot of fraud that takes place, that these labels do not truly depict what is inside these foods, but generally they're supposed to. So reading the labels, it's important. Now we know that salt has been a preservative of food for many centuries, for millennia. This goes back thousands of years when salt was an important ingredient. But we know too that too much salt is not good for many persons, especially those with high blood pressure. We know also that whether it is sugar or whether it is complex carbohydrates that are inside the foods, that those complex, what we call carbohydrates and starches, may well be broken down into sugar itself. And if you're diabetic or if you cannot handle and tolerate sugar that well, then in a similar way, you can find yourself having an elevated blood sugar from eating some of these foods that really you may not realize it has in these high levels of sugar or starches because it is not fully displayed. But what I really want to get at is some of these other ingredients. There's a whole list of artificial colorings and artificial flavors. The artificial colors, I could give you a lot of their names and so forth, but we found that a number of them have a similar component of those chemicals that look or seem to be like estrogen. They're not estrogen, which is the female hormone, but they have components that act a little bit like estrogen. And so, as a result, when you eat them, especially eating them in large quantities, as acting like estrogens, they tend to be obesogenic. I have to use that word. They tend to make you put on weight. So that these compounds that look a little bit like estrogen cause that effect. And as a result, their effects similar to that of diabetes and so forth and things like that similar. Some of them definitely have been linked not only to breast cancer, but also to prostate cancer and other bowel cancers. And I didn't want to go into the full detail. I want you to really read a little bit more about some of these artificial coloring, and they can be toxic. But in today's world of trade, the presentation of a product, and if you've processed some food, I mean, by heating it or by mixing it with something else, and it doesn't look the right color, when you present it in a bottle, a jar, it may not be as appealing. And so today's world is about how can you enhance that appeal. Today's world is also about how do you keep it natural. But a lot of persons who just not concerned about that, about it being natural, it being unadulterated, they want something that's cheap. They want something that is affordable. Affordability is such a big issue today that they will look to buy something that's the right price. But in addition, if it looks good, if it's red and it's supposed to be red, if it's yellow, it's supposed to be yellow, if it's green, it's supposed to be green, and it looks the perfect green, perfect red, perfect yellow, and that is appealing, then the manufacturers don't mind adding these type of products so as to get buyers to buy them. And if they have cut corners, if they have cut corners, then they basically, well, you know, over the years, a lot of people have cut corners. In certain countries of the world, they make toothpaste and they're supposed to add a gelatin gel to it to make it look pasty and come out of the tube. They have added other chemicals sometimes that's far cheaper. And these other chemicals have caused death, have caused people to become sterile, have caused all sorts of problems. But there's no doubt that sometimes manufacturers want to take a shortcut. And I'm encouraging it at this time that once again we are receiving barrels, and your relatives, unknowing to them, would love to send you a whole box, a whole barrel, but may have picked up things relatively cheaply. They may not have always picked up the best quality. And I'm not putting down what is sent in barrels. I'm not putting down what is sent to relatives. That's a wonderful thing. I wish I could receive a barrel myself, you know. But I am more getting at some of these products. I want you to read those labels. And definitely, if you are a diabetic, oh gosh, but look for the calories, look for the amount of natural sugar, um, look for the amount of what we call added sugar, and also certainly look for other ingredients that you don't know about that may be labeled there. Now, one of the sugars I want to tell you about is something called high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup. This was a sugar that was invented in around 1980. Prior to 1980, a lot of countries that used to produce sugar wanted higher prices, and they were not, exporting sugar in the same way they used to during 100 years prior, where sugar was king. They wanted better wages for their sugar workers. They wanted more money for a ton of sugar being exported. And someone came up with an idea that why don't we use corn? Yes, corn, and treat it with some chemicals, some enzymes that would alter the starch inside the corn and produce a type of sugar that's called high fructose corn syrup. Now, this sugar that was produced from corn was not granules like you see in a bag of sugar. They're not crystals. They really, this high fructose corn syrup is a liquid. You know, the industry thought that's a great advantage. We don't have to stir it to dissolve the sugar, to make the sugar not be settled at the bottom. We can just pour that sugar into a tank. We can pour that sugar into the mixing thing by turning on a screw, and we could pour the right amount by knowing how much of this liquid has gone in, and it will save us money. And so high fructose corn syrup is one of the big sugars used in the Americas, especially North America, Canada, and United States. Now, Europe doesn't tend to like it so much, but it's there too. But they realized after a while that high fructose corn syrup did not act like glucose. Our body was not made to digest and break down this high fructose corn syrup in the same way. Now, let me just say again, the Lord made our bodies to utilize sugar in the form of glucose. But there's another type of sugar called fructose that we find in fruits. Mangoes, banana, oranges, passion fruit, they all have in fructose. But you know, our body can handle up to about 25 milligrams of fructose each day. That's no problem. Our body can deal with that. We can handle that. You know, that's nothing. So unless you're sitting down eating a bucket of mangoes, if you eat 3-4 mangoes, your body can handle that. If you choke some guava and some passion fruit and some juice after that, your body can handle that. But let me say that in many of the foods we drink today, there is a large amount of this high fructose corn syrup. If you get Coca-Cola from the United States, it's going to be made with high fructose corn syrup. And the amount that's in a Coke, in a 25 cc bottle of Coke, a can of Coke or whatever, the amount of high fructose corn syrup in that, along with high fructose corn syrup that's in bread, that's in other products, cookies, peanut butter, even tomato ketchup, when you're in the United States, you will be surprised that today, many persons living in the United States consume over 130, 140 milligrams of high fructose corn syrup. Remember I said that your body can handle about 25 milligrams well. That's a joke. But when you have 140, 150, and some people go up to 200, people who are drinking Coca-Colas all the time from the United States. Now, Coca-Cola that's made in the Caribbean and ketchup that's made in the Caribbean may not have the high fructose corn syrup. It have sugar in it, but it may not have the high fructose corn syrup. But this high fructose corn syrup, your body, your liver, your muscles cannot break it down and digest it in the same way. And so it causes lots of problems. But it isn't just that it raises your blood sugar. In addition, it's also, because of the way it's being broken down, it starts causing a whole set of other fats and other fatty tissue. And that's a problem. Now, we're going to take a little break here, come out, and then we just hear from our sponsor. We come back and we'll finish this off. Come out. Hello?
I'm here.
Yes. Yes, let's just go to the sponsor. Let's get a quick break, and then we come back.
People's Pharmacy, for all your pharmaceutical, skin, and body care needs. Located on Grenville Street in Kingstown. They open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday to Saturday. Call them today at 784-456-1170. People's Pharmacy also stock vitamins and supplements, personal care items, toiletries, children and adult pampers, and much, much more. And of course, get your prescriptions filled by a friendly and professional pharmacist. People's Pharmacy. Come in today and let us serve you.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, so I want you to read labels. And when you read the labels, you'll get a much better idea as regards what may be in the food. And foods that have a large amount of high fructose corn syrup would be considered ultra processed foods. Foods that contain a lot of excess salt, and other chemicals, also ultra processed. Foods that have been just put together to look like it's real food, to taste like real food, but they have all sorts of ingredients and components put together. This is also ultra processed. But in wrapping up the whole thing about food, you also have to be very careful about how food is kept and how it is left for long periods of time. Is the food still good? Now, you can have what we call some natural toxins in food, such as molds, and there's some special toxins that we find in certain type of cereals. Corn, there's a toxin called aflatoxin, AFLATOXIN. This has come from fungus, from mold that has left certain parts of it behind. And these toxins that the mold has left behind can cause you to get sick. You have certain type of fish. We're quite lucky, even though some studies have shown that sometimes even fish in our water contain mercury. There are some parts of the world where fish have been breeding in areas where there's a lot of chemicals coming down rivers, coming from industrial plants and industrial companies down the rivers into the sea. And these fish, they will naturally consume high levels of these toxins as well, because different things eat the toxins, and the fish may eat these different things. And as a result, the fish can contain things like mercury. You don't want, as you travel around the world, to be eating fish that is high in mercury and that certainly can. Now, on the land, do you know in soil, you can have chemicals like mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic, and certain plants will soak up those chemicals from the soil. And you have to be very careful that these chemicals, what we call these heavy metals, because mercury, lead, cadmium, and arsenic are really heavy metals, and certain plants will soak them up, even to the extent that they will start to appear in the fruit or in the tubers, in the bulbs that be potatoes and so forth. And so you have to be very careful about these things. Luckily in St. Vincent, our soil doesn't seem to have a lot of these type of heavy metals in it for any crop to soak up, and we're lucky with that. But besides that, what about what we put into our foods? Do you realize that we import a lot of fruit, a lot of foods that have been grown with high amounts of pesticide? There's some pesticides that are banned in Europe, but still legal in the United States. And they don't mind. Matter of fact, in St. Vincent, glyphosate has been, I would say, partially banned. But glyphosate is used extensively in the United States. And we've shown that glyphosate can be an inducer of what's called a lymphoma, a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That is a kind of a blood cancer or cancer of your lymph glands. And you see your lymph glands by your neck start getting swollen, the ones underneath your arm getting swollen, and it's a real form of cancer. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I know I'm saying a funny word there, but boy, I tell you something, it's dangerous. But there are many other pesticides, many other type of pesticides. some that could be sent down here in a barrel, and so when people use them, we seem to need chemicals to clear land. That's a herbicide. We need chemicals to kill ants and germs and other pests, things that may be eating down our crops. But we don't always realize that some of these chemicals, if they are going to kill ants and kill plants, they could be doing some damage to us as well.
We have a caller.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Good night, Doc.
Good night.
You see, I have to call you, I have to call you. I hope the people are listening.
Okay.
I almost forget. I almost forget the program tonight. But
I almost listen. It's my fault. But when you talk up just a little louder, Dave, please.
Hello.
Talk up just a little louder for me.
But I'm surprised my voice isn't coming through.
No, it's my fault. It's at my end. It's at my end. Go ahead. Go ahead, please. Go right ahead.
I heard you talking about fruits, different fruits, and so on. If I heard you correctly. Yes. So I don't know. I didn't get it from the beginning, so I don't know what is the objective of this, tonight's program. Because a lot has been said about us falling victims to foreign foreign fruits and all this kind of thing. I mean, you know what? My biggest disappointment is that we lost our citrus in this country. And it was, in my opinion, no attempt was made. I remember the days of young children, Orange from South Rivers advertising the oranges in town. No, I don't think that hasn't been happening for a long while. So, I mean, this new government, I think, I don't know. I don't know if they can bring back oranges, especially because I used to enjoy my fresh orange juice. I don't know if that is healthy in your opinion, but I used to love to squeeze my my fresh oranges and so on, which was very, very common. During only about it, we had the orange season.
Yes.
But I don't think a lot of after we lost our citrus, they said to some kind of disease.
Wait, Dave. Let me say, I sometimes travel through Florida, and I would have driven through fields of oranges.
Yeah.
And as I drive through some of those areas, there's no longer oranges there. There's a disease called citrus greening and several other diseases that have been wiping out the citrus population, from limes to oranges to grapefruits and so. And we also have had that. Now, out at where I am, out at Enums, at the Enums Agricultural Station, they have been propagating citrus trees so that they could withstand or have a greater chance of withstanding the citrus greening. But when you plant a citrus tree, it may well take a good 4 or 5 years before it starts to bear. You know what I mean? So this program of replanting the citrus, I am hoping that we will see some benefits of it where you'll be able to get your oranges to squeeze once again, But
I'm saying it was too long. We never, I don't know. So for some reason, we're not serious about certain things. Isn't orange one of the better fruits for us in terms of health?
Yes, oranges is a great fruit. All the citruses. Matter of fact, people lament about lime, not seeing lime, and so forth.
Right. I know.
Huh?
One of the days when I used to get my limes, I used to get a sack of limes from the
Orange Hill.
And right into Sandy Bay, they had these lime trees. I remember seeing them when they disappeared.
Let me say, the point I was making, you know, Grenada is the Isle of Spice, but a
Yeah.
number of years ago, a hurricane came and devastated their spice industry. They had to plant back. But how long does it take for the trees to grow? They did it straight away, so that they've been planting and distributing citrus trees for some years now. But I think that we're only going to start seeing in the upcoming years the benefits of that as the trees them start to bear and survive the citrus greening. You know?
When you talk about Grenada as the land of as the Spice Island, as I say,
Yeah.
I remember going to Grenada on a fact-finding mission, as it was referred to. And when I they took us around, they took us around to the different. Grenada had a well-organized. As a matter of fact, I think they were second only to one of those Far Eastern countries where nutmegs were concerned. And what's the name of the country? Was it Malaysia? One of those Far Eastern countries. I'll have to go back and do that, to research that. But
Dave,
oh,
you know, St. Vincent was the repository of lots and lots of different spices. And in those days, we deferred the spices to Grenada. And so that's how Grenada started to become the spice island. We got our breadfruit and other fruits instead. But there was a phase after that when people, they were just interested in sugar and other crops of that nature, and not so much in it. But Dave, I think we've come to the end of the program.
You talk about breadfruit, thank God for breadfruit, because it's a lifesaver. It's a delicacy now for many Vincentians. When they complain about they don't eat bread, they're not eating breadfruit, it's slave food and all that kind of. Vincentians are unique, different kind of people. I'll single light on that note. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dave, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and all the other listeners. Let me just wrap things up with this particular program that, there's ultra processed food, and I want you to be careful. I want you to be also careful about foods that there are other toxins inside them, pesticides, things that we have done to try and preserve the food itself. Whether these chemicals are still on the food, outside of an orange, outside of a mango, or have been taken up by the trees and are now inside the fruit itself, some of us will not know. I'm hoping that in the future we'll have a much better idea about this. And so I want to encourage persons to be careful about food. Do drink and be merry, enjoy yourself this Christmas. Do have a wonderful celebration and be safe. Let's ensure that there's solid food security and that our food is safe and you are using it very safely. This is Dr. Gerald Thompson signing out. A pleasant good evening, good night, and Merry Christmas to you.
People's Pharmacy, for all your pharmaceutical, skin and body care needs. Located on Grenville Street in Kingstown.